Hey, and welcome back. Today we're going to talk a little about publishing your presentation, and we'll talk about a very exciting feature in Media Connex's Studio Impression, the eTakeAway. The eTakeAway, or electronic takeaway, is a sea change in audience participation. With it, your audience is able to follow along with your presentation on their own PCs. They can take notes on each of your scenes, and then review your presentation at their leisure when you're gone, all without printing a single piece of paper. Let me show you. The eTakeAway begins in the publishing screen. I've got a completed presentation, all my scenes are set, and the actors are in their places. It's time to publish. The publishing screen gives you a nice big stage to watch your presentation on. You can use the controls at the bottom to play your presentation back and make sure it's ready to go. I've already reviewed my presentation and I'm ready to publish. Up here in the Properties bar, I have 3 different options to publish my presentation to. I can publish to an impression viewer file, and anyone who has our software can play back my presentation on their own PCs. I'd also want this option when I'm going to be giving the presentation myself. I can publish to an executable file which contains the player already in it. So if I want someone to see my presentation and they don't have our software installed, I'd want to pick this option. The last option is to publish to an Adobe Flash movie file, which can be played by anyone with the free Adobe Player, or if I want to upload my presentation to the internet. For our purposes today, I'm going to publish my presentation to the viewer. I can call it whatever I want. Okay, next I want to publish an eTakeAway file, so click on the Preview and Publish eTakeAway. This screen gives me a preview of how the eTakeAway will look to the audience member. The options at the top let me pick whether or not I want to include a section for them to take notes, and if so, where those notes will be, top, bottom, right, or left. Let's just pick the bottom for now. This section below our stage is the section for notes. Okay, that's all the decisions I need to make. Go ahead and click on Publish Electronic Takeaway. Name it whatever I want. Okay, I'm going to close out of Impression Studio and launch my presentation. Now a little pop-up here tells me that some things will have to be changed in my Windows firewall settings in order to have my audience follow along with my presentation. These changes will only apply to this presentation and will only last as long as the presentation is open, so we'll just select Yes. You can click on No and still give your presentation, but the eTakeAway won't work. And trust me, once you see it in action, you'll want it to work. Okay, here's the first scene of my presentation ready to go. I'm going to split the screen now so that you can see what happens on your audience member's screen. Over on the right is a completely different computer on my network. However you want to do it, let your audience members know where they can go to download your eTakeAway file. Maybe it's on your website or on a secure folder on your computer. Once they've got it, they simply open it up. They get the same warning about firewalls and access. If they don't click Yes, the file just opens to the first scene of your presentation. They'll still have the file, but they'll only be able to see the first scene. Unless they run the eTakeAway file and keep it open for the entire presentation, they won't get the entire presentation. Well, that'll keep them in their seats. Okay, so here we are. On the left is my presentation. On the right is what the audience member sees. Note the area for taking notes. Your audience member can click inside this box and just begin typing. Now watch this. As I go through my presentation, the audience member's screen updates to whatever is on my screen. They can take notes on every scene, and those notes will be saved in the eTakeAway file. If I'm going too fast for them, they can use the controls at the bottom to go back to the previous scenes. When I continue on, they can press this button here, and the eTakeAway file will catch up to where I am. While the eTakeAway is paused, it's still recording scene changes the presenter is making. Okay, My presentation is over, I've answered questions, and have been generally awesome. The audience members go back to their people and want to show what an incredible presentation it was. They just relaunch the eTakeAway and give the presentation themselves. Their notes are right there. My presentation is laid out exactly as I gave it. Pretty cool, right? When you use the eTakeAway tool, you engage your audience. You give them a useful tool to better remember your presentation, save not an inconsequential number of trees, and enlist legions of people to tell your story.